Hello and welcome to News Center with me, Parikshit Luthra. Donald Trump's trade wars have begun with the US president confirming 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and doubling tariffs on China to 20%. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced 25% retaliatory tariffs on $20.7 billion worth of US goods, followed by another 25% tariffs on $107 billion worth of US products after a 21-day consultation period. Mexico is following a wait-and-watch policy. China has also announced 15% additional tariffs on US chicken, wheat, corn, cotton, and an additional 10% levy on US soybean, pork, beef, aquatic products, fruits, vegetables, and dairy from March 10. Speaking on Truth Social, Trump has also promised to impose tariffs on all agricultural imports into the US from the 2nd of April. The US has already announced that reciprocal tariffs will be imposed on all nations from the 2nd of April this year. India and US are currently in the process of negotiating a trade deal, and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is in US for talks with his counterpart Howard Lutnick. How will these tariffs impact India? Joining us right now are Jayant Dasgupta, former Indian ambassador to WTO, and Amitendu, senior research fellow on trade and economics at the National University of Singapore. Ambassador Dasgupta, if I can begin with you, speaking about agricultural imports into the US, how do you think tariffs on agricultural imports in the US is going to impact exports from India specifically?
Well, the US is one of the largest exporters of agricultural products. In 2024, it imported about $204 billion worth of products. And if the US were to impose 100% tariffs, the burden will have to be borne by the US consumers. The second point that I wanted to say is that as far as India is concerned, India exports coffee, tea, and mate and other things, beverages, worth about $390 million worth. That is one of the largest. Shrimps and other fish, which is strictly speaking not considered as a part of the agricultural universe. It is part of the non-agricultural market access NAMA product, industrial product. Now, that is the largest export product. If you take it as part of agriculture, it is about $2 billion worth. And then comes other things like, honey and essential oils, etc. So India, the agricultural products that India exports is not very high, and it is focused or concentrated only in a few chapters of the harmonized code. So I don't think it is really going to be affected very much. But of course, if the US imposes 100% tariffs across the board on all agricultural imports into the US, irrespective of the country, then it's going to be quite problematic.
Mr. Palit, I'd like to ask you, do you think Donald Trump will follow through on this threat of tariffs on agricultural imports?
I think he will, Parikshit. There is a reason for that. I think the reason is pretty much clear that now with tariffs being imposed on United States exports to various other countries, there is a serious prospect of prices that the United States consumers will face in their internal market is going to go up. And if you would have noticed, most of the retaliatory tariffs that have come on the U.S. exports till now, principally from China that have already come in through, and also from Canada, as they have suggested, are on United States agricultural exports to these countries. So I think there is a side of the tariff play that is coming into prominence now. There is a cost to the tariffs that have been brought into play by Trump 2.0. In fact, he has admitted to it as well, that probably there is going to be a cost in the short run. But what that cost is also now going to generate is a twofold effect. First, in a lot of cases, American consumers are going to face much higher prices for their products. Number two, several American exporters, and principally agricultural exporters, which comprise significant segments of the Republican constituencies, are going to get hit hard on their market access exports. So this is now a reverse policy that is being brought in while the initial round of tariffs were being imposed by the Trump 2.0 for improving the market access of American products in other countries, now this is the other side of the story coming into play, that American consumers will now be encouraged to buy more from the domestic producers to ensure that these producers don't suffer the kind of economic losses they are going to face as a result of retaliatory tariffs. And one quick point here, Parikshit. Yeah, I think I'd just like to mention that very soon, Donald Trump is going to deliver his first State of the Union address to the Congress after getting elected, which is going to address his domestic political constituencies. And I think that is where he has to send a message across to all constituencies about the success and long-term fruitfulness of the measures that he's adopting.
One quick question. When it comes to agricultural exports from India to the US, which product lines do you expect to be hardest hit by Trump's tariffs?
I would expect some impact to come on pulses, some impacts to come on essential oils maybe, or oils as such, but I'm not too worried about a broader range of impacts for Indian agricultural exports generically, for the very simple reason that I think India also has an opportunity. The opportunity is that India and the United States have begun negotiating a bilateral trade agreement. Now, in the backdrop of that, these generic tariffs on agricultural exports have come up. So in a sense, that gives India a baseline to look at and explore the kind of market access it would like to have for its own products into the American market. Because if you see a situation where a lot of other competitor agricultural exports into the American market are facing high tariffs, but Indian exports somehow get a concession on those in the space of the first tranche of the BTA that is going to be worked out, then actually that might give India an opportunity.
Right. Ambassador Dasgupta, coming back to you, Donald Trump has also followed through on his threat of tariffs on Canada and Mexico. He's confirmed that 25% tariffs on Canadian products being exported to US and Mexican products being exported to US, those tariffs will come into effect. He's also doubled tariffs on China to about 20%. Retaliatory tariffs have also come into effect from both Canada and China. How do you think this is going to impact global supply chains and India?
I think there is going to be a lot of upheaval and disruption of supply lines and trade flows. The Canadians are the largest agricultural export destination for the US. And the Chinese also figure amongst the top 5. Sometimes it is the Chinese which are the largest buyers of American agricultural products. Sometimes it is the Canadians, followed by the Colombians, the Japanese, the Koreans. Now, if, there is going to be 100% tariffs on the imports. The Chinese also export some agricultural products to the US, but there would be cross-sectoral retaliation. And that I think the Chinese have already started doing it by saying that they will impose 15% tariffs on American products, additional tariffs. So it is going to be, quite chaotic, and retaliatory tariffs will be there, crisscrossing the oceans. So it is very difficult to predict as to when there will be a cessation and good sense will prevail, because this is not the way that international trade can grow and can benefit all countries which participate in trade.
Right. And Amitendu, final question to you. How do you see these tariff wars, which have now truly started impacting India? US and China imposing tariffs on each other, Canada and US imposing tariffs. Is there an opportunity for India, or in the short run we are going to be impacted on certain products?
Parikshit, that's a very interesting question, because it can go both ways. As I mentioned earlier, there could be an opportunity for India because India knows what to expect when it is into the negotiations. There are generic tariffs that have come on both sides, on agricultural products, on steel, aluminium, copper, and there are a number of countries on which tariffs have come. there are going to be dismantling of existing trade arrangements. Like after these trade agreements, you obviously won't really have the US-Mexico-Canada agreement existing the way it used to have earlier. So that means a whole new range of opportunities for India. But there are various complications going ahead that I can foresee. The first is that because of these back and forth tariffs, there's going to be an escalation in the embedded costs that producers face. There's going to be a tendency to divert production for avoiding the tariffs. Some countries would scramble to catch up production. Some countries would attempt to catch up production but may not be successful. Now, in all these, how prospects pan out for a country like India is actually not too certain at this point in time. And there is a second point that comes in here. We need to wait for the reciprocal tariffs. Now, the problem over here is that reciprocal tariffs, as the United States has said, it's not just going to be a one-on-one response to tariffs on one line vis-a-vis tariffs on another line. There are a range of other issues that are going to come into the calculation of those tariffs, like non-tariff market access barriers, other investment and market access issues, positions taken on currencies, and so on and so forth. I think where India stands right now is at an interesting posture because India is probably, apart from Japan, only country which in the Trump 2.0 has been shown the inclination by the US administration to be entered into and engaged with a straightforward, no-nonsense bilateral trade agreement. And the United States has shown a clear interest in that. It is important for India to capitalize on that interest and ensure that it comes back with a balanced outcome.
Let's not forget, Trump has also threatened to impose tariffs on agricultural imports into the US as well. On that note, we take a short break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll get you an interview with the global CEO of Tenneco, a global automotive component manufacturing firm, which is a big supplier to OEMs and the aftermarket around the world and has a big presence in India as well.